Progress.
Okay, Shalom Aleichem.
Don't read feedback.
Hilchos Shavuos.
Oh, reading feedback on the phone. The door words.
Simin Tov Tzadik Dalid.
But
Discuss the dinim of Shavuos. I want to start off with a Torah that the Kedushas Levi of the Yitzhak Abaditchev said is why is Shavuos Dafke called Atzeres, page Tov Memvav. Why is Shavuos called Atzeres in the Torah? With the name in Chazal calls Shavuos Atzeres. So Atzeres means Meloshin Otzar Itzru Meloshin to hold back from doing Melacha. So the idea in Yom Tif is called Atzeres in Torah because it's Atzeres from Melacha, you refrain from doing Melacha on Yom Tif. However, why do you find the Chazal, they refer to specifically Shavuos as Atzeres, holding back from Melacha. Every Yom Tif you don't do Melacha. Why is Shavuos unique? That Dafke Chazal call this Yom Tov Atzeres. So the Yitzhak Abedisha explained like this: every Yom Tov has in it a unique mitzvahs associated with that Yom Tov. On Sukkot, if Sukkah, the Alaminim, you take the Hashanis. On Pesach, we have the Isser of Achilas Chametz, the Isser on Ba'ira Matzah, owning Chametz. You have the chiyuv to eat matzah and maror and carbon pesach and all these different mitzvahs. However, Shavuos has no mitzvahs associated with Shavuos. Besides for eating cheesecake and some other minhagim, there is no specific mitzvah that we do on Shavuos. The Torah doesn't tell us we have to do something, shake something, blow something like shofar. Yom Kippur, you fast. There's no unique mitzvah about Shavuos. The only thing that we do on Shavuos is we don't do malacha. That's what's minat Torah, not doing malacha. So, Levi Tzabadish said that's why Chazal call Shavuos Atzeres, because that is what Shavuos is all about, not doing malacha. There isn't anything more to it. Ad kan to the Torah of Kedushas Levi from Levi Yitzhak Baditchev. The Rebbe one time discussed this, and he added his own knech to this Torah. And the Rebbe explained, said like this: what's take the pshat? Why take the Shavuos have no mitzvahs associated with it? Shavuos is such a special Yom Tif, the Yom Matan Kabbalah's Matan Torah. It's even greater than a lot of the other Yomim Tovim. Specifically by Matan Torah, we should have a lot of mitzvahs associated with it. However, we find Shavuos is no mitzvahs. However, the reason is like this: Shavuos is the essence of everything. It's the Kabbalah of the Torah. It's not about doing the mitzvahs. It's about accepting the mitzvahs, accepting the Torah upon ourselves. It's higher. It's not lower than other Yom Tovim. Shavuos is higher than other Yom Tovim. It's the mucker of all other Yom Tovim. Because it's higher than everything else. This is the beginning of everything. It's not about a specific mitzvah. This is not about a specific connection we have with the Eibishter. Matan Torah is about our entire connection to the Eibishter. It's about a very essential connection that we have to Torah and to Hashem. If there would be a specific mitzvah we had to do, would sort of limit the Yom Tif, that it's only regarding this mitzvah. However, Matan Torah is above and beyond specific mitzvahs. This is about all the Taryag mitzvahs. This is about the Kabbalah's HaTorah in general, which is the beginning of the whole process of all the mitzvahs. This is the very essence of the Torah and the essence of our connection with Hashem. And therefore, there's no specific mitzvah that we have to do. Because anything specific, any detail, takes away from this being the Kalal Gadol, what which is higher than all the pratim, all the details of detailed mitzvahs. That's why it's just atzeres. So that's exactly what the Alter Rebbe starts off saying. B'yoyim chamishim l'svidas oimer hu chag Shavuos. Hanikra atzeres. V'loshen chachamim. In the language of Chazal, it's called atzeres. Shenemer tisbru chamishim yoim vikraftem v'krasem be'etzmi zemike kodesh. It says you should count 50 days, and then you should bring special karbanis, and you should call that day mikra kodesh. You should make it holy. That is the 50th day. That is Shavuos. Lefi cheshbon kriyas hachadashim amos b'yedenu chodesh nisan umali la'olam chodesh iyur chas ha'olam yichag zeh b'shisha b'sivan. So we step back for a second, and we discussed this in previous years, but to bring it back again as we're approaching the Yom Tif, to refresh our memories, Shavuos is the only Yom Tif which is Torah does not connect to a day of the month. Yom Kippur it says Basiri Lachodesh Ashri. On Rosh Hashanah it tells us a date. Sukkot it says a date in the Torah. Pesach it says a date. When it comes to Shavuos, there's no date in the Torah. The Torah says count 50 days from Yitzias Mitzrayim. The 50th day, that's Shavuos. It's not connected to a day of the month. It doesn't matter if it's Hey Sivan, Dalet Sivan, Vav Sivan. It's 50 days from Pesach. Now, based on our calendar, when we will count 50 days, we do Sfiras Oim every night. It's always going to come out to the same day in the calendar. It's always going to be on Vav Nisan. The first day Shavuos will be on Vav Nisan. However, that's because our calendar is set up, and the months of Nisan and Iyar, which are the months that are in between, Shavuos and Pesach, are always set up to be the same amount of days. To step back a little bit further, a lunar cycle, the moon has a cycle, and a lunar cycle where the moon appears and grows bigger and then begins to grow smaller until it disappears, and then the moon renews itself. That's called the lunar cycle, a month. The lunar month, the cycle is 29 and a half days and a bit more. It's not an exact thing, 29 days or 30 days. It's in between. It's 29 and a half days. And always the Rambam brings, it's Yud, Chav Tes Yoim, 29 days, Yud Bei Shois, and I think it's Tav Shin Sad Gimel, 793 parts of an hour. That is the exact amount of time it takes for the moon to have its cycle. So the lunar cycle, our Chadashim, our months, based on Parshas Boi, the first mitzvah that Yidden got while they were still in Yitzis, while they were still Mitzrayim, was that they should be Mekadesh the Chodesh. A Chodesh is Elochem Hu Reish Chadashim, Rishon Hu Lochem B'chol Chad Shashana. That was when the concept of months, counting months, came about. And months are based on lunar cycle. Now, otherwise, how do we differentiate time? Maybe a month should be 50 days, 40 days, 20 days. What's a month? A month is based around the lunar cycle. Our years are based around the solar cycle. Solar meaning the sun. How long it takes for the sun to go back to its original point where it was in the beginning of the year. There's 4 seasons. The reason why we have 4 different seasons is because the sun's position, the sun is revolving around the earth, but it's also moving in different direction, and therefore we have different amounts of heat. It's cold, it's warm, depending the position of the sun to the earth, how far it is, how close it is. Closer it is, it's summer and spring. Further away, it's winter and fall. And when all the four seasons are over, the sun goes back to that original point where it was. And a year is by the solar system. So the idea of having 12 months in a year has nothing to do with the sun. That has to do with the lunar system. Now, because the lunar cycle is not exactly 29 or 30 days, we don't emit them all in the middle of a day, say, oh, 29 days, 12 hours, and not and 793 parts. Chalakim went by. Fish Chodesh right now in the middle. No. We learn out from the Psukim that Rish Chodesh is a day. It's not half a day. Rish Chodesh is a full day. How are we going to make it a full day if the lunar cycle is never a full 29 or 30 days? So the way we do it is we do 1 month. Some months are 30-day months. Some are 29-day months. And this way we keep to the lunar cycle. Now, when they were Mekadesh al pi hariyah, means when there was a Sanhedrin around, we would physically, there would be, the mitzvah would be to have a physical sighting of the new moon. When we had Adam coming to the Bezdin and saying, we saw the new moon, the Bezdin would ask them various questions. The Bezdin had to know astronomy and to make sure that the Adam were saying the truth, that whatever they were saying corroborated with astronomy and makes sense. They saw the moon, where they saw it, and everything had to make sense. And then their Eidos would be accepted, and the Sanhedrin would get up and say, Mekudesh, 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 it's Rish Chodesh. And every single month, it could change. Some months, if they came right away by 29 days, and they said, so then Rish Chodesh was right away in the 30th day, so it was only a 29-day month. If they didn't come that night, that day, it automatically became a 30-day month. And that was then. But then, after the Sanhedrin, there was no more being Mekadosh al pi hariyah, and we have a luach, a set-up calendar that sets up a system for us how we should set up our months. And the way it works is that most of the year it's a pattern. We have Tishrei is a Malay, always 30 days. So always remember the beginning of the year is full, 30. Then just skip to Teves, 2 months. We're going to skip Cheshvan and Kislev. Teves and on, it's a pattern of Chaser, Malay. Teves is a Chaser, and then on Malay, Shvat is a Malay 30 days. It's always that way. Adar is a Chaser, Nisan is always Lamed Yom. There's always a Lamed Nisan. For the rest of the year, so 10 months of the year are set in the calendar. There's 2 months of the year that fluctuate, Cheshvan and Kislev. They can fluctuate in 3 directions. It could be both full, we call a Shana Malaya, that both be 30-day months, and that's a more days in that month. So they'll each be would be 30-day month, be 2 days of Chodesh. Or they could both be Chaser, Shana Chaseda. It could both be 29-day months, 1 day of Chodesh. Or it's called Shana Kisidra. It will be in a Seder, just like we said that Tishrei is always Lamed Yom. Cheshvan will be Chaser, will be 29 days. Kislev will be 30. And remember, we said Tevis is Chaser. Such a year will be a pattern the whole year. Starting from Tishrei, Malay Chaser, Malay Chaser, Malay Chaser, till the ending of the year. Those are the 3 types of years you get. So it's only those 2 months that fluctuate. The rest of it we always know. So the way our calendar is set up now, Lamed Nisan is always 30 days, Iyar is always 29 days. So when we're going to count 50 days from Pesach, Tisbru Chamishim Yom, it's always going to land out on Vav Nisan. It's never going to change because the months don't change. It's always a 30-day Nisan. It's always here. However, when they were Mekadosh al pi hariyah, and it wasn't based on the set calendar we have today. It was based on a physical sighting of the new moon. It was possible that Nisan would be a chaser, also, just like Iyar is a chaser. If Nisan is only 29 days, you're missing a day of Sfiras Omer. So what are you going to need to do? You're going to need to count an extra day to get to 50. So you're going to continue counting. You're going to count Vav is going to be 49. Now Vav is the 50th already. Vav is 49. Oh, Zion, which to us is the second day Shavuos, will be the first day Shavuos. Zion, Sivan will be Shavuos. That's how it was when the Mekadosh Shapiriyah. Fakert, if not only Nisan is a Malay 30 days, but Iyar is also a 30-day month, you had an extra day. So when you counted Lamed Iyar, you already were ahead another day in Sfira. By the time you came to Hey Sivan, you already had 50. Hey Sivan is a 50 day. So the Gemara Rosh Hashanah says, Pa'amin Behei, Pa'amin Bevav, Pa'amin Bezayin. When they were Mekadosh Aliyah, Shavuos fluctuated. It wasn't like you looked at the calendar, you always knew when it's Shavuos. They did not know. They couldn't plan the Shavuos vacation at a time in the Airbnbs in the upstate. They couldn't plan it. They had to know when the Bezdin was going to be Mekadosh, Nisan, and Iyar, and then you could figure out. You knew Rosh Hashanah, a day in the calendar has a day in the month. You didn't have a day in a month. The Torah never associated Shavuos a day in the month. Torah says from Pesach. It has no intrinsic day. The Gemara says a taka could change. Leading, by the way, the Shagas Arya in the Sefer al Shas. So the oven, he asked, what would be with Kriyas HaTorah? We know, the Shulchan Aruch says, the reason why we read the first day Shavuos, we read Basaris Hadibris. Why? Because Vav, Kabbalah HaTorah, 50 days. However, and what do we read on the second day? We read the other psukim. So what should you do in a time? What did they do in a year when it was hey? It was not on the original day of Kabbalah Satira. So
Clear at the same time, or Ezra was Misafin the teeth or the Torah, no?
because I want to point out one more thing before we go further. What makes this whole thing strange is Torah tells us how to calculate Shua's 50 days. To us, it works out on Vav. And it happens to be we have a Gemara in Shabbos, that Peiches over there. The Gemara explains that everyone agrees, the Chachamim, Akopanim, were Maida, side of Yosi, that it was on Vav Nisan Matan Torah. Matan Torah was on Vav Nisan. Yosi held it was Moshe Haisif Yimei Mecha Midaite. He added an extra day to the Shloishes Yamim. Hey, Yunachleinim, Shloishes Yam to compare 3 days from Matan Torah. What did that mean? That on the third day would be Matan Torah, or 3 full days in the Matan Torah afterwards.
Right.
So that's its subject to interpretation. And Yosi said that Moshe Rabbeinu added an extra day because they weren't ready to be Meichav of Matan Torah. So it was on Zion Stephen. That's a separate discussion. Matan Torah, we do have a discussion of what day it is on the calendar. But Shavuos is not a day on the calendar. Shavuos, which by us always coincides with Matan Torah, didn't exactly always coincide when they were Mekadosh HaPiyariyah. Because even though we hold, let's say, it's Vav Sivan, according to Chachamim, there were times that Shavuos, remember Shavuos says one day when they were Mekadosh period. It was one day. So it was, let's say, Hey Sivan. Hey Sivan was Shavuos. Matzai Hey Sivan. You're back to making Havdalah, you're back to Chayil. That's Vav Sivan, the day of Matan Torah. Matan Torah was Vav. Matan Torah could be a day after Shavuos. It's strange. The same idea could be the opposite. You could have, when you had, if both months were Chaser, Iyar and Nisan that year, the Mekadosh Shapir, the Eidim came, they both came on time. Eidim came, they saw the moon, moon. Both Nisan and Iyar were 29-day months. One day Rosh Chodesh, 29-day month. You're missing a day now of Sfira. So Aimer Tisper Chamishim Yom is going to be, Vav is going to be 49. Zion's going to be Shavuos. Erev Shavuos, Vav is going to be Matan Torah. Because Matan Torah is a day on the calendar. Remember, the Torah never said to us when was Matan Torah. The Torah doesn't say when Matan Torah was. The Torah itself doesn't say. The Chachamim in the Gemara work it out. What day it was on the calendar.
Is it not implies that it was on day 50?
It doesn't say it. And it happens to be that the Gemara points out that when the Mekadosh HaPiyariyah, it didn't always coincide on the same day. Now, we do know, based on the Yerushalmi and other things, that that there's no carbon chatas on Shavuot, that the Torah hints to the fact that Shavuot is a celebration of Matan Torah, that the Yom Tov Shavuos is connected to Matan Torah. Although Maisa, it doesn't exactly have to always coincide on that exact date. So now the Rebbe explains over here in Sif Aleph. The reason why we say in Tefillah Zman Matan Torah Seinu is because the way our calendar is set up, it is the day of Matan Torah. But when the Mekadosh Apiriya, they wouldn't necessarily say Zman Matan Torah Seinu unless it fell out on Vav. You wanted to ask something. So now we're going back to the Shagas Aryeh. So he says, what would he do with Kriyas HaTorah? The Kriyas HaTorah is set up because Vav Sivan was the day of Kabbalah HaTorah, as Dibris was said. So on Vav, but if Shavuos is going to be on Hay, Shavuos is going to be on Zayin, what are you going to do with the Saras Dibris? Maybe you should switch it around. Let's say Shavuos is on Hay, then maybe the second day Shavuos should be a Saras Dibris, because Vav is when. So Shagazari says you go by Roiv, you go up Chazal. We're not going to switch it every year, since most years it worked out that Vav Sivan was Matan Torah. Remember, because either Nisan or Iyar, any one of them were missing a day, it would be on Vav. Either if one of them was a Mali, one of them a Chasa, whichever one it was, it would be on Vav. Most years it fell out on Vav, and Chazal set it up that way to lane the Torah based on that kviyas. Even though not every year that worked out that way, they don't set it up in a way that changes Kol Shana to make a different kriya. The kriya should be set up the same way. Which, by the way, led to a little bit of a discussion because the Rebbe came up with his chiddush that since the Matan Torah is only connected to Svirus Aimer, and Svirus Aimer is a chiv on every single yachid. It's not a svir like Shemitah and Yovel. The Bezdin holds the cheshbon. You don't have to count. Oh, this is the first year of the Shemitah, second year of the Shemitah. Now we're in the Shemitah year. The Kaddish Hashanah Yovel. It's not a chiv on the yachid. The Bezdin blows the shofar when is the so. It's not a chiv in the Svirus Aimer is on the yachid. So the Rebbe was mechadish. It's a two-step chiddush that's interrelated to each other. It comes out to chidushim. Svira Sa'omer is your own personal count. So you can ignore everyone around you. You count your count. Shavuos is based on your count. Since Shavuos is only based on Svira Sa'omer, and Svira Sa'omer is a mitzvah of a yachid, so Shavuos is nikva based on your Yom HaChamishim, your personal Yom HaChamishim. If you crossed the international date line, so you either lost a day or gained a day. When you count Svirus Aimer, it's your personal count. You don't just look around who everyone in Australia is doing. You came from here to Australia, you gained a day. You lose a day. You lose a day. When you go there, you lose a day, meaning you're going to come there and they're going to be already ahead, right? Because they're like 17 hours ahead. When you come there, you're going to cross over the date line. It's automatically, let's say you cross over Monday, 12 o'clock. You go over the date line, wherever it is in the Pacific Ocean over there, and you will cross, after you cross everything, there's different sheetas where the halachic date line is not clear. It's a national date line, halachic date line, but you're going to cross it over at some point, and you're going to get to Australia. You're going to find out that it's Tuesday by then. For you, it's Monday, but they're Tuesday. They're ahead, so it's Tuesday. Now Tuesday, it comes Tuesday night. They're going to be counting the sphera of Tuesday night. By you, you're holding by the Monday night sphera. You're a day behind. So what should you do now? So some people said, you jump to the community sphera. It's a communal sphera. You have to go basa the mukim. The Rebbe said, that place. The Rebbe's shita was that no, Svirus Ha'omer is your own personal count. It's a yachid. You don't look around to your neighbor and the kehila what they're counting. It's nothing to do with the place. Svart and lechem, and every single person has to count. You're not holding there. You have to keep holding your cheshbon. It's a private sphere the Torah commanded you. It's not a bezdin, a local bezdin. It's you. You have to continue your count. So number one, you're counting a different count than everyone else, which just happened to me. I went to Australia once, and I was there for a week and a half during Sfira, and I went over the date line, and I was counting my own Sfira. I was diving with a minion, and they will be saying the next day Sfira, And for me, I was a day behind. But I didn't have a problem with Shavuos because I came back a week and a half later during Sirius Omer. I came back. So when I came back, I came back and I came back to the New York Cheshbon, and then I was aligned with everyone where I was.
You went over to the Japan side or, you know,
No, I
you got
went both
money?
ways.
You got money.
No, I didn't go. I crossed the date line. I didn't avoid the date. I went straight, but I went both around trip. I didn't have any Shiloh shorts. It was just the Shiloh that I did the different Sphira, but I didn't have any issue. Now, however, the Shiloh is in a case, what would be if I would have stayed in Australia? I wouldn't have come back. And I would have went there. I mean, I want to go Shavuos. I want to visit some family there. I'm going to go for Shavuos there to Australia and stay in Australia. Now, they're going to count Sphira. Their Sphira is going to reach the 50th day, Shavuos, a day before me. I'm behind in my count. So what should I do now? Says the Rebbe, big chiddush, you should make your own Shavuos. Should prave your own Shavuos. Shavuos, the Torah connects to your Sphira.
Counting.
It has no mitzias besides for your Sphira because there's no day on the calendar. And your counting is a yachid. This sounds very strange. It is very strange. So the Rebbe, you have to, your Shavuos is a day before, is a day later, I'm sorry, a day later. Meaning, the first day Yom Tif is by your Yom Chol. The next day Yom Tif, you're not allowed to do malacha because over there they're not doing any malacha, but you don't do kiddush. You have to put on tefillin privately, everything, and you daven your tefillas chayil. And then when the second day Yom Tif, their second day Yom Tif will be your first day. You'll you'll stay up at night and all that, and then their Issur Chag will be your second day. And the same thing, the opposite. If an Australian comes here and they are already ahead, so when they come here and they go from Tuesday to Monday when they cross state line. Goes from Tuesday to Monday. Now they're in New York. It's Monday, but they're ready by Tuesday, so they're ahead in their count. By the time it comes Erev Shavuos, hey, Sivan is their 50th day. Says the Rebbe, they have to prav a Shavuos on Erev and Hey Sivan, and I do the day before. Now the Rebbe said because it's a very big chiddush, he doesn't doubt this chiddush of his, and however, it's a very big chiddush, and if it's very strange, he doesn't want anyone to do this. He doesn't want anyone to come to situations where they're going to be doing something different than the kehillah, because it's a very strange thing. However, the Rebbe did Lamaisa hold this way, but if someone did do this, for whatever reason, this is the psak the Rebbe held. There was
When you say he doesn't want anyone to do it, meaning you shouldn't get to that situation where you have to.
so
do it.
what should you
But
do?
why
What should you do? You could cross around the other way around the world
Mhm.
to avoid the date line, the other way around the globe, which is a much longer trip, and avoid going back, which is actually what I did one year when I went. I went for Pesach there, and they start and Sfiras Omer was in the middle of Pesach, started Pesach. When it wasn't the middle, it was I came before Pesach, started middle of Pesach, and the way back from Australia, I didn't want to have the issue with the date line, and then have a different Shavuos in this whole Shaila, and the Rebbe didn't want it. So I went around the world the longer route. It took a much longer time, but you go through Europe, basically. Instead of going through California this way, you go through the West Coast, you go through the East Coast, and you're going through Germany, and you're going through Europe. I went with Singapore to like Germany. It's a few stops, a long, tiring trip, just to avoid on the date line. Now there are some chevra from Australia that I don't know if they got a heter from a Rav or not, but you have people that come here to New York and they make the Australians, they get together and make themselves a minion. And we're the Chadei early. So then, hey, Siva, and then in the back of 770, some are making themselves a minion for Shavuos. So what should be with that Kriya Satira? Should they do Asaris Adibris on their second day, which is Vav? It's complicated, and really they shouldn't be doing it. There was no poskim that agreed with the Rebbe on this, to be honest. But there was one of the poskim who did hold. It was a Shavuos base Avi. I don't remember one of the poskim who held halfway. He held Sfiras Omer. The Rebbe is 100% correct. You go after your personal count. and you have to keep your own personality. Shavuos, it's the carbon and it's different, and that's separate. That you have to go based on where you are locally. The Rebbe originally wrote this story in 1950. The Rebbe came up with the Shaila in 1949. In Tashin Tess, there was a Yid Betzalel Olshansky, the father of the whole Olshansky family, the grandfather of the brothers who were, some of them were Nifta recently, the Rosh Hashiva in Morristown, and the one in Tzfas, and the Lahav Mechaim is one in Crown Heights. He's their grandfather. And this Betzalel Olshansky was an older Russian chassid, and he had traveled over the date line. And this is before the Rebbe was Rebbe. And I don't know if he wrote to the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe sent the question to the Rebbe, or he wrote directly to the Rebbe. He was trying to understand what's going on over here regarding Shabbos and what's going to be the date line. The Rebbe wrote him a whole tshuva, and the Rebbe there brought up a shaila that yesh lachker. What do we do about Sfiras Omer? Do Sfiras Omer go by the Yachid, or does it go by the Mokim? So that's where he brought it up, and he didn't decide yet. Later in 1958, there was a bacher, Chaim Sobransky, who came from Australia, and he traveled by boat. I didn't know anything about the date or anything, and he came to New York, and he asked the Rebbe, "What should I do? I crossed the date line and this," and the Rebbe told him that. I think at that point the Rebbe told him, "You should listen, not make a bracha on Sfiras Omer. You should listen into someone else's bracha, and you should make your own the Sfira continuing where you came from." Regarding Shavuos, the Rebbe said, "I think that you have to keep your own Shavuos, but go speak to Rabbanim and the Bezdin and discuss this issue." Later on, the Rebbe became very strong about his opinion, like solidified his shita, and he came out very clear, like in the beginning of the 60s, Tashin Chafalim, that he held 100%. You'd only have to hear the bracha from someone else. You count your own count. You have your own shuas. But he didn't want people to do this and to go over the date line. If you don't go over the date line, there's never such a situation where shuas is not going to be vav sivan. The Rebbe shared this question he got in 1958. That he got from Chaim Sobransky. He shared it with Rabbi Zevin, and the editor of Encyclopedia Talmudis, a very big Talmud Chacham at Yisrael. And Rabbi Zevin was an older Russian chassid and a big guy. And the Rebbe shared with him this question that he had and what he paskin. And he wrote back to the Rebbe. He was an older generation, and he told the Rebbe, like, he doesn't understand this. This doesn't make sense to him. And the Rebbe told him, and he said, "It's a big chiddush." The Rebbe said, "You're right, it's a chiddush. I'm asking with you." But the chiddush is, that's what it says. That's what the Pesukim say. That's what the Torah says. It's a chiddush, but the chiddush is, that's what it says. Sometimes we say this sounds like very novel, but that's what it says. So the Rebbe says it's a personal sfira, and you go by your personal sfira. This was the Rebbe sheet on this on this issue. So getting back now. Now, if we make the cheshbon, by the way, that was another thing over here. Now I want to go on to a different point. Let's leave the date line alone. Let's leave it aside. Let's click another step over here. If we make the cheshbon, we go to the psukim of Matan Torah, from Yitzias Mitzrayim until the day of Matan Torah, it will come out something very interesting. The first year the Torah was given, it was 51 days. The Torah was given 51 days, not on the 50th day. It was given 51, Matan Torah, Vav Sivan, the year that Matan Torah, the year that the Yidden left Mitzrayim and they received the Torah, from Yitzias Mitzrayim until Matan Torah was 51 days. Okay? Meaning, that first year, Shavuos and Matan Torah already did not coincide. They did not coincide. The very first year the Yidden left Mitzrayim, the 51st day was Vav Sivan. Vav Sivan was 51 days, meaning Vav Sivan was 51 days away from.
Did they have Shavuos? That was, when would the Lachas give?
So that's a good question. They didn't have Shavuos of Hashtas. There was no Matan Torah. So there's not an issue. The question is now, how do we, this is the Alter Rebbe asked this question over here, how do we say Zman Matan Torah Seinu on our Yom Tif when we are 50 days? We're not 51 days of the Omer. We count Sviras Omer. Hey, next week, Sunday, Matzah Shabbos, we're going to count 49. Sunday night, Matzah Shabbos, and Sunday is going to be the 49th day. Sunday night is going to be the 50th day. How are we saying Zman Matan Torah Seinu if it's 50 days and that year was 51 days? Whatever answers, we go by the day of the month. Matan Torah was Vav Sivan. Now it's Vav Sivan. Zman Matan Torah Seinu. It doesn't work to the day of the counting from Yitzias Mitzrayim count. How many days it was away from Mitzrayim? We don't commemorate Matan Torah historically. Is not based on how many days it's from Yitzias Mitzrayim. Matan Torah is a day on the calendar. It happened on Vav Sivan. We commemorate it on Vav Sivan. It happened May 28th. That's what it is. It doesn't change. It's always Vav Sivan. Even though that year Vav Sivan was 51 days. Now Vav Sivan is 50 days because based on the calendar, we still say Zman Matan Torah Seinu.
Why you say 51 days?
Because they both months
That you were Mullen?
were
How did you know?
both months were chasser. One second.
Male, both were
Both Male. Yeah. Both were Male. Both Nisan and Iyar were Male. So they already reached the 50th day on Hay. Hay was the 50th day.
How do we know both months and Mullen?
How do we know that? I don't know. The Alter Rebbe doesn't bring that cheshbon. How do we know that it was then that cheshbon?
Isn't the Gemara saying this? It's not unless it's Mullen.
It could be Tanakh Gemara and Shabbos over there.
That's all.
Could be that's the cheshbon of the Gemara. But so that very first year, so it becomes like this. The Matan Torah, Matan Torah has to do with, we commemorate Lefi the Zeicher is on the day of the month, which is Vav Sivan. The Yom Tov of Shavuos is the 50th day. And it happened to be the very first year. The Magen Avraham brings from the Rameh Panoi, the Menachem Zayim Panoi says that the fact that the very first year Matan Torah was on the 51st day is a hint to the concept of Yom Tov Sheni Shagalias. Then they didn't have any concept of Yom Tov Sheni. There was only one day Yom Tov. But the fact that Matan Torah the first year was on the 51st day, that's a hint to Yom Tov Sheni Shagalias because we have now our Yom Tov Sheni, the second day Shavuos, is on the 51st day. There's a lot of svarim to discuss this discussion.
I'll pick up Rolo and get serious. Then you went out of the sign, you went out of the church, and then to Shari Kamu, and how now there's 51. And it's everything going according to when out of the sign, the original year, the honestly,
Why do they have an extra day?
how's it then test? Now it's 50.
I don't know. I don't have the answer to your question. I think there's a Sikha that I'm in Chela Gimel where he discusses this Emor, Parshas Emor. Take a look at it. where he talks about there's two aspects of Matan Torah. He says, I think that there is, oh, I think this is what the Rebbe says. The 50 days was the completion of the Tafton. We did our work, that we are complete, and we're able to receive the Torah. But Matan Torah was a day later. Matan Torah was a day later. Matan Torah is Momaila. The Nevrayim, we did our Avodah, was complete in the 50 days. But Matan Torah happened a day later.
But now we're down to 49, and now the 50th is now Mamish on Matan Torah, on the day of Matan Torah. So now it's different.
Yeah. Now it coincides that
How's it placed? How's
the
it
Kabbalah. So take a look at the six. A good question, a valid question. I'll take a look. I want to tell you something. There was a Yid in the earlier years, maybe it was in the 1960 or 61, I don't know. And there was a Yid who, he wasn't a Talmud Chacham or everything, a regular guy. He didn't know much, and he came from Japan, and he came to New York, and he was staying or eating by Rabbi Khan's house. And that year, Shavuos was Shabbos. Sometimes Erev Shavuos was Shabbos. It's Shabbos Sunday, Monday. So it was Shabbos Sunday, Monday. Friday night, he's sitting by the meal with him, and he tells him, that he describes how he came from Japan. And he went over the dateline, when he came into Japan, he didn't know anything. And he was a simple guy, Bichlal. He wasn't like a new. He went over the dateline, and it was the first night. And Abiel knew that the Rebbe one time discussed this, and it wasn't yet the time when he fully laid it out 100%, but he saw that the Rebbe was leaning to this direction. And according to this, he went over the dateline and he came from there. He had an extra day. Because remember, you went from Tuesday to Monday, so Yisvita Saimi had an extra day. Because you went back, and you're counting another day again. And by the time he came to Friday night, Erev Yom Tov, Hey Sivan, was his first day Shavuos, according to the Rebbe. So he told him over what the issue was over here. He told him that, Al Smach me, you should daven again with Yom Tov, Shalosh Regalim, and you should make Kiddush Yom Tov. And tomorrow we're going to ask the Rebbe what to do.
Wait. Now, what about Shabbos? Is Shabbos really Sunday?
No, his Shabbos stays Shabbos. But now he has Yom Tov Shechali is for Shabbos. So now he comes the next day. Abiel took him, and so we're going to wait till the Rebbe is walking into his room after davening, and we'll stand outside the room. Just tell the Rebbe two things. Just tell him you came from Japan. That's all. See what the Rebbe responds to you. So he was Israeli. He was Hebrew. He told the Rebbe, Bati mi Japan. I came from Japan. No question. He didn't ask a shaila, date line, didn't say anything. Just said, I came from Japan. The Rebbe's on his way to his room. There's people he's wishing good Shabbos to them. And he's going to his room to take out his key to open up his door. And the Yid stands and tells him, Bati mi Japan. Without missing a beat. Yeah. The Rebbe tells him, good Shabbos, good Yom Tov. So he tells him, Biel tells over the story. You can see a video of it, how he tells the story. Mamish like this. Good Shabbos, good Yom Tov. Then the Rebbe goes to his room, sticks in the key in his hole, he turns around, Kabbalah Satayra So then, later on, he hears that the Rebbe's secretary tells him that the Rebbe's calling you. So, I was calling Abiel. So he called him in, and the Rebbe was thinking about this question and said to him, what's going to regarding what's going to be with tefillin, because Sunday and Monday, where everyone else is second day Yom Tov for him, so the Rebbe said that he should put on tefillin. So the Rebbe said to him, the Rebbe asked him what, and the Rebbe said, and so he asked the Rebbe, what about should he say it with a bracha, like mamash laniach tefillin, like it's like a vaday? So the Rebbe said to him, and the Rebbe was measuring his word, and he said, "V'bal tichal tazos is that this was his Shavuos, and this is his Yom Chayil." And the Eibishter gesagt, soll legen Film, für was nicht? Das sagen mit der Brache, nicht Film. But he said he never understood till a little while later. He did not understand why the Rebbe told him Kabbalah Satayr the simple things. Why? Because Shavuos is separate from Matan Torah. It was Hey Siv and it wasn't Vav. So this was something he didn't understand why the Rebbe did it. And Bechlal, like the Rebbe didn't tell it him right away. He like walked away and then he turned back and he told him that. So he
Went to for the next day.
so okay, so that you could say Balabatish, that's just Erev, But they don't the Rebbe said a Sicha saying that there's two aspects. There's Kabbalah Satayr and Matan Torah. So Mitzad and Akuda of Matan Torah the next day Vav. Mitzad the Inyan that he finished his Chamishim Yoim, that he did what he could, that he's ready for Matan Torah, he was ready to be Makabel the Torah. So that was his own take, Chassidish take on the Rebbe's and the Rebbe, since that's not an actually Matan Torah, the Rebbe separated it instead of not together with the Yom Tov, because not a real. This is already a Chassidish pirush, but this is what the Rebbe. He just said two words, Batimi Apan, and the Rebbe went like that. Get Shabbat Yom Tov. You should hear the story on Gem. You can find it on YouTube and that, where he says the story over and what happened. But then later on, the Rebbe said a clear sicha where he clarified his position in public. This is what he held. But remember, the Rebbe was not happy with people going. I don't think he necessarily would like that they're making these minyanim and things like that, because the Rebbe held not that he has suffix in his shita, but since he knew that others didn't hold this way, and people look at this as very strange that you're doing different in the whole community, and you have to reckon with the fact that you're keeping different day. Shouldn't be done, and if it had to be done, maybe it should be done quietly. He didn't never discuss the meaning because it wasn't oil or das, and there wasn't even like 10 people coming who would travel, and some people suddenly travel and have like a shaila what to do.
Why shouldn't that have a meaning?
Maybe if they do, maybe they should.
He's curious to Torah on it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. It's questionable. If the Rebbe didn't want him to do it, and you're doing it, if
Yeah, it's still that. That's what it's meaning.
Yeah. It's an interesting discussion, this whole. Some people start having issues. What's going to be with a ger, someone who became this guy or middle sphere soimer? So he didn't have those days of sphira. So what's his Shavuos? They asked the Rebbe this. According to the Rebbe, that your sphere is what makes Shavuos, and I became a ger. I didn't have a sphere soimer. Became a ger in middle sphere soimer, or a lady that's not mechuyev in sphere soimer. Even if she counts, but she doesn't have the mitzvah aseh counts for Zomer, how is her shuas come about if sphere is a yachid? The Rebbe basically learned that it's not about whether you count it or not. It's about how many days that went by. It has to be the 50th day. 50 days went by, that's when shuas is. Happens to be you weren't mechuyev to count because you were a guy or you're a isha, so you don't have the mitzvah. The fact, or you missed the count. Whether you missed the count or not is not going to change your Shavuos because you didn't count. The matter is that you had 50 countable days went by. That was the Rebbe's response to that question. If you want to learn more about this, you can take a look in Chela Gimel and Kotasichis, Pashas Emer. They have in Yiddish, and the translated to Hebrew you can have in Hebrew, Pashas Emer, Chela Gimel. When the Rebbe said this sikha about this thing. Should all have a Kabbalah Satayra, the simple Pnimius, and should be a good Yom Tiv.
Amen. Good percent.
They say about the cheesecake, the Alter Rebbe writes that Harbe time and Memrallah, that there are many reasons given for why we eat milchigs. So the Hashanim, they say Harbe time and Memrallah. Many tastes are said about the cheesecake, different type of flavors. Tam aloshin, tam. But we can't forget, by the way, that the milchigs should not overtake the fleishigs. You're supposed to have a fleishig as sudan yam, supposed to have meat. But among the balabastas, they're so excited about the milchigs that it becomes a full-blown milchig buffet. And the fleishig, so you should remember that we should have some fleishigs later on. And I'll just say one halakha connected to this. People, our minig is to wait. I don't know if everyone here has this minig, but a lot of the olam is a minig to wait an hour between milchigs and fleishigs.
Except Parmesan.
Right? Yeah, mashgiach. So the 6 hour cheeses, you have to be careful. But there's a how generally have a minute to Pi halacha, by the way, you just have to wash your mouth out and you're good. And you bench. And you bench. You have to masalik yourself from the sudan. But the minute is you wait an hour. Well, Lamaisa, this hour doesn't have to be after you bench. So you took your last bite of cheesecake, your last bite of that eggplant parmesan, whatever you're having over there. The last bite that you had, from there you start calculating the hour. You have to bench the michal. You can't have it in the same suda, but the hour can calculate the last bite of milchiks to the first bite of fleishiks. So it means, technically speaking, you can bench right after your milchiks. You can wash right away for your fleishik meal, have fish, salad, sing the gunin, say Dvar Torah, and argue about the politics, the shul politics. And as long as by the time you had the roast comes out, it's an hour from your last bite of milchiks, you're good to go. You don't have to go and wait a full hour and sit on the couch and have your nap. You can do them back to back if you want to do them. You don't have to wait as long.
Wait, full benching like on bread, like you make
Yeah, because the milchik meal, people don't usually. When you have both meals, people are not washing. They're making kiddush and having some milchik stuff, and then they're gonna have the fish and the salads and the meat for the other course. That's the way it should be done. Today with the balabastas, it's the excitement of the milchik that already takes over the whole thing. Shem good Yom Tov, everyone. Good to see everyone.
Good Yontif.
Shkoyach.
Yasher Koach.
we otherwise has one Shavuos.